We have a habit of tidying up history. We take the messy, complicated truths of pivotal moments and compress them into simple phrases, often built around a single name. But what happens when the name is wrong? When it forgets the other key players and the full weight of the decision? Today, we trace the path of the most famous failed charge in American history to separate the enduring legend from the brutal, collective reality. First, be sure to like and subscribe to Winlink Deep Dive to support our investigative community. The truth is, it never should have been known as Pickett's charge. The responsibility and the glory was never his alone. General George Pickett commanded just one of 3 divisions that stepped off into that deadly mile-long valley of fire. To his left, Pettigrew's North Carolinians and Trimble's mixed brigades advanced with equal courage and bled in equal measure. And the entire fateful plan was the brainchild of one man, General Robert E. Lee. Yet history has a stubborn preference for the powerful image over the complex fact. Pickett's Virginians were the fresh face of the assault, untested in the battle thus far, positioned proudly at the center. They marched out with their lines dressed as if for parade, their flags held high against the sky, presenting a tragically perfect target for the waiting Union guns. It was this specific image of doomed gallantry that burned itself into history's memory. In the post-war years, the narrative was cemented by those who survived to tell it. Virginia veterans, with Pickett himself leading the charge, tirelessly promoted his name. Longstreet, who had vehemently and correctly opposed the attack, saw his reputation fade in the South, his name carefully dissociated from the disaster. Pettigrew and Trimble, both grievously wounded on the field, lacked the longevity and platform to claim their stake in the story. And so the name stuck, short, dramatic, and eternally tragic. Pickett's charge, a march into the heart of annihilation, remembered for its raw valor, its devastating futility, and for marking the high water mark of the Confederacy. The sun climbed over Gettysburg on July 3, 1863, with a slow, heat-heavy inevitability. Its light filtered through a permanent haze, smoke from 2 days of brutal fighting, now mixed with the acrid, lingering scent of burnt powder. The field was eerily quiet, a false calm broken only by the occasional speculative crack of a single cannon. Both armies were exhausted, battered, but not broken. From his position on Seminary Ridge, General Robert E. Lee surveyed the Union line on the opposite rise, Seminary Ridge. He had thrown fierce assaults at both Union flanks. Now he became convinced the killing blow must fall at the center. He believed he had found a soft spot. Turning to his trusted but troubled Corps commander, General Longstreet, Lee was resolute. "The enemy is there," Lee stated, "and I am going to strike him there." Longstreet, a pragmatic and horrified realist, saw the terrain for the death trap it was, nearly a mile of open rising ground, ending at a stone wall held by entrenched infantry and artillery. "Sir," Longstreet replied heavily, "I have been a soldier all my life. I know what soldiers can do. It is my opinion that no 15,000 men ever arrayed for battle could take that position." Lee's mind was made up. The burden of execution passed to Longstreet, a burden he carried with profound dread. The order sparked a flurry of activity, most notably in the camp of Major General George Pickett. His division of Virginians, impeccably uniformed and fresh, was electric with anticipation. For Pickett, this was the moment of destiny. He rode among his men with theatrical grace, all flowing hair, and unwavering confidence. Nearby, a different kind of officer watched, Brigadier General Lewis Armistead. A veteran of countless fights, Armistead felt not thrill, but a deep, somber weight as he looked at the young faces in his brigade. He knew the arithmetic of the charge ahead. This was never just Pickett's fight. Forming on the left were Pettigrew's men, their ranks already thinned from previous days. In support came Trimble's brigades. Together, they formed a force of nearly 12,000 men. The plan was deceptively simple. A massive artillery bombardment would silence the Union guns, then this grand infantry line would sweep across the field, break the center, and win the war. In the final quiet moments, soldiers made their private preparations. Cartridge boxes were checked, canteens shared. Some scribbled last letters. Forced laughter echoed, then died. One young soldier held up a can of peaches, vowing to eat them that evening on the captured ridge. Another simply knelt, head bowed in silent prayer. Across the way, on Seminary Ridge, a deceptive quiet held. Behind the stone walls and earthworks, the Union Army waited, not in fear, but in grim preparation. General Winfield Scott Hancock moved calmly along the line, his steady presence a living bulwark. They had seen the Confederates form up. They knew what was coming. The Confederate bombardment, intended to be the largest of the war, began with a titanic roar shortly after 1 o'clock. For nearly 2 hours, the world dissolved into continuous shuddering thunder. But the barrage failed. Smoke blinded the Southern gunners, their shot largely overshot, crashing harmlessly behind the Union lines. On Seminary Ridge, Union artillerymen, under orders to conserve ammunition, ceased firing, tricking the Confederates into believing their guns were destroyed. As the cannonade sputtered into an abrupt, ringing silence, the true horror began. Pickett, seeking final permission, galloped to Longstreet. "General, shall I advance?" Longstreet, overcome with a grief he could not express, could only bow his head in a silent, agonized nod. The line stepped off. It was, for a moment, a breathtaking spectacle of military pageantry. Thousands of men, banners aloft, bayonets glinting, moving in eerie unison across the green field. Then the first Union shell landed, and then the next, and then the entire ridge erupted in fire. From the moment they cleared their own tree line, the assault was a study in carnage. Union artillery, now fully manned and loaded with deadly canister, cans filled with hundreds of iron balls, opened with horrifying precision. The neat lines began to fray as they hit the fences of the Emmitsburg Road, men struggling to climb over under a torrent of metal. On the left, Pettigrew's division began to crumble under the onslaught. Trimble's men pushed into the gap, but the pressure was too great. The left flank slowly, inevitably, began to melt away. Yet in the center, Pickett's Virginians, now horrifically exposed, pushed on. Officers fell one after another. Garnett, riding despite illness, vanished into the smoke. Kemper was shot down. At the front, Armistead, his hat now raised high on the point of his sword as a rallying point, led the final desperate surge. A small knot of men, with a fury born of despair, actually breached the stone wall at the angle. For one brief volcanic moment, they planted their flags on Seminary Ridge. This was the Confederacy's high water mark. It lasted seconds. Overwhelming Union reserves surged forward, sealing the breach. Armistead fell, mortally wounded, his hand on a captured cannon. The attack shattered. What was left of the magnificent line stumbled, ran, and crawled back across the same ground, now littered with the dead and dying. In less than an hour, over half of the men who advanced were casualties. Longstreet watched it end, his grim predictions fulfilled. Lee, riding among the shattered survivors, repeated, "It is all my fault." But fault could not recall the dead. The field fell into a stunned, smoky silence as dusk approached. The war would drag on for nearly 2 more years, but its turning point had just passed, etched in blood across a Pennsylvania field. They called it Pickett's Charge, though Pettigrew and Trimble's men bled just as freely. It was Lee's concept, Longstreet's grim duty, and the shared tragedy of thousands, forever simplified into a single, resonant, misleading name. And that's how a name can eclipse a truth. It simplifies the shared sacrifice of many into the story of one, reminding us that history is not just what happened, but what we choose to remember and what we allow ourselves to forget. If you value these journeys into the nuanced heart of our past, subscribing to Winlink Deep Dive is the best way to support our work. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching.